First of all, thanks for coming in. I'd have met some of you before. The first thing is that my understanding is that you could be growing hemp and then you could have guards coming out to you accusing you of something else. I remember at the time, this is a few years ago, like we putting in questions about trying to see would this be resolved, and to be honest about it, I think we're facing nearly a brick wall, to be honest about it. There's a few questions, you know, when you talk about PT ground, Mr. Carmody, any of the hemp and I'm not an expert around them, but in talking to people, I talk to people in Claremont and different parts that were doing it. They were sown maybe an acre or 2 acres or 3 acres. There was none of it large scale, we'll put it that way. I remember at the time, you needed nearly 2 blades for cutting it, one for cutting it at the bush, but one for cutting up at the very top, the tops. And I saw, actually at the time, Class was making a machine, and I went to the bother of Ring in America, that's where the machines were, and I think there's something like 750,000. Now, my own view is that you could actually change machineries here, like combines or whatever, and change them to get the flour part of it on an elevator out. On peaty ground, like, you won't work that type of machinery. There's no point in, you'd have to be on tracks. With the time of year, say you'd be cutting it or whatever, it wouldn't be dry enough. I'm just wondering, has anything progressed? My memory of at that time was that most people were taking the flour, they were cutting the other thing, and to a sort of, the grace of God, whether you got it or not, what you'd cut on the ground, you might be twisting it and turning it, but you might never get it. Has anything progressed that way? Second of all, I presume you're talking about sort of nearly a plan of where we're going on hemp, because at the moment it seems to be individuals, in fairness to them, doing their own things and creating their own markets without any help anywhere. It needs an awful lot. It needs certainly like one big operator or co-op to come in and set up the infrastructure that everyone can feed their stuff into for a while, something like that. Chris, you made reference to a High Court case. Can you tell me what's involved? Are you saying that we in Ireland are in basically contradiction to all European law, that we're not in compliance with the rest of Europe? And you mentioned a High Court case as well. And have ye talked to companies in other countries? You talked about, say, the retrofit and the insulation, and in building a house, 5 acres builds a house of. I presume it's the STEM part that you're talking about. Is there any companies doing that that like us could sort of see how it's done or what's involved in it out in other parts of the world? Basically, that's my questions, and thanks again once more for coming.
Okay, thanks, David. There's a lot of questions there. On the court case, that's up for review in July, so we won't get into the court case here. We won't pass any comment on it. Okay, Carmody.
I'll start with your second question. We are a cooperative. We have 262 shareholders, and all we need is the investment and the grant aid to get going. We've done a lot of research, and you know, I'm a member of a working group at European level where we know the products are all being made in Europe. I've seen some of them. I've been over in Holland and whatever. So, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And going back to your PT ground, where I am in North Kerry, there's a lot of drained peatland that created Kerry Co-op, you might say. Yeah, around the Stowe. So, you know, a lot of that is very heavy ground, around Moyvan and whatever. And the beauty of hemp, you don't set it till May. That was the best crop I ever had. I set on the 21st of May, and it was off the ground by the end of August. So you're talking about a nice short window, which is why it sits as a rotational crop. And we've had machinery designed, but we don't have the money. And it's the funding that's holding us back, and the lack of grant aid. We would do a share release to our members to get investment in. And I've just done a submission with my board on the new cooperative legislation so that we can bring in people like Enterprise Ireland to put all the infrastructure in place. If we had the right policy, we could have it there within a year or two. And I reckon it would just turn this country round on its head. And
just confirm, 3 months growing period, that's
3 months.
3
and then,
months, from sowing to harvesting.
Yes, and then you're retting it for another 2 weeks on the ground, you know, a dew ret. But you can take it up green now with some of the big machinery. But I'm concerned about the farmers on the western seaboard of Ireland. You know, everything's moving east. And we don't want that. Even Kerry went east, and you know that horrified us. We need to, reinvent our rural communities. And people love the idea. Hemp, flax. In Belgium, they create, building blocks that are like Lego. And the SEAI will approve them to come in to build here. But we're not allowed to build them here because we can't get the infrastructure and the money. And I really...
Where you can, you put the cement in, or the concrete in between it. Are you saying they're made of hemp, yeah?
There's hemp ones now. I mean, Declan would explain better than me, but he builds with hemp.
Okay.
There's no concrete used. You can build precast hemp blocks that would be made out of hemp and lime, and they would be used as you would use your concrete blocks.
Okay.
And then the other building method is be shuttering on site around the timber.
You plaster them or do anything with them?
Yeah, you would have to, you plaster them on the inside, and the outside it would have to be either lime render plaster or cladded. It's a breathable material. It's breathable.
Just
it's
incidentally,
pardon?
When you're going down that route, compare the price of them to blocks. What's the story?
Well, at the minute, because of the import costs. But if you had your indigenous industry and we were producing them here, it would be on par, if not cheaper, than your concrete blocks.
Okay. McCain.
Yeah, so on the fibre crop, you wouldn't expect a wheat farmer to grow wheat for the straw and not sell the wheat. So it's exactly the same with hemp. You don't just grow for the fibre. You have to take the whole value of the crop. And of course the farmers want the value of the top of the crop. And you're absolutely right, there is machinery that will strip the head for the seed or for the botanicals. But to that you need to actually have the machine, and then you also actually need the other on-farm infrastructure to deal with those tops as well. And that all has to happen on the day. So that's quite a big, significant investment, be it for a co-op or a group of farmers coming together, or an industry that's going to come in and create markets for those things. But without the dual purpose, then it's not really very interesting to anybody, and it just won't happen.
Okay.